So this is what I'm lucky enough to be doing today. See all of this hydraulic fluid down here? This is all oil that is dripping out of the hydraulic power steering cylinder that's down here. It finally blew something the last time I used it. I actually thought when I turned it off that it would just leak what's in there and that's it. But as you can see by this big circle, I think I lost a lot more hydraulic fluid than I was expecting. So I'm gonna get this cylinder pulled off today. I picked up this seal kit that was supposed to be for this steering cylinder. I hope I don't have the issues that I had with the last seal kit that I got. I did print out the parts diagram and I've got the service manual. So I printed out information that's telling me what I need to do. Looks like it should be pretty straightforward as long as this thing comes apart okay. Let's see. All right, so to do this, what I did is I took off the ball joint piece there from this tie rod. So that way I don't have to come out and get these off. These are actually really hard to get off. You have to hammer the crap out of those. So I did not want to mess with these. And to do this, you got to take the wheel and tire off, jack this thing up, do all that. I don't want to do that. So this should be the easiest way to do it. So I have, as you can see, the tie rod is loose and that ball joint's right here. I do have to take at least one of those ball joints off. I think it's the other side because I need to take those 4 bolts in there off to pull this completely out. And on the other side here, I did the same thing. I just used an adjustable wrench to take that off. Honestly, it was really easy to take off. So way easier to take these off. And as long as all of this works out the way I'm expecting it to, you'll save your back and your body by leaving this on and just taking that off. Now I've got to take this ball joint off here, off the cylinder. That way the cylinder shaft can slide right through the unit and I don't have to take the entire casing off of this hydraulic cylinder. I'll just have to pull the cylinder piece out and replace the seal and everything that's on the cylinder while it's on the tractor. I'm doing this all right here. Don't plan on bringing it to a shop or anything else. So I'm going to do this here, basically use the tailgate of my truck, and I'm going to rebuild this. All right, so now that I've got these broken loose, let me tell you how I did it. And the reason I'm putting this in here like this is because I tried a bunch of different ways to get these off. They were actually really hard to get off until I found the right method. So what I did is I got 2 of these 24-inch adjustable wrenches. And the reason I have those is because to get on this, if you can see, there's like a flat spot here and a flat spot here. And the only way to grip this cylinder shaft here is there's a groove here and a groove on the other side, which I believe is 1 1/8. The reason I say I believe is because I still ended up just using the adjustable wrenches to do it. Because once I figured out the easy way to do it, it actually all came apart real easy. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put one of the 24-inch adjustable wrenches on this. And then you want to do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to be going against each other anyway. So one of them's going to give. I put a 24-incher here and I put a 24-incher on the other side. And of course it was the other side that gave, which is really the one that I could have left on. But that's okay. When that one gave out and I was able to, unscrew it, then you can actually get to this part of the shaft where it's flat and you can get a good grip on it. If this is on there, you can't get a good grip. I did find a service wrench that I had that fit over this while this was on it, but it's so thin that it was bending the service wrench. And the only way to get it in there is to have a thin wrench. So you're kind of, stuck with that. So if you get one off, let me show you the other side. Then I used one of my favorite tools, my locking adjustable wrench. So that way I could get it set exactly where I wanted and then I could lock it into place so it wouldn't fall off. With that on there, with a really good grip on it, then I was able to use the 24-inch adjustable wrench on the other side to easily just take it off. I actually just stood on it and it came off real easy. So this to me is the don't break your back kind of way. Takes a little bit of time and thought, but it comes off without killing yourself. So anyways, I'm gonna get the other side off. Then I've got to take these 4 bolts here and just pull that entire cylinder out. All right, so next was these 4 bolts right here. They were 19 millimeter, which I think is equivalent to like a 3/4 inch. But I used a 19 millimeter socket and I had to use a breaker bar because they were on there really tight. But those 4 are off now. I got to take that hydraulic line off that's right above on the top of the cap. And once I get that off, that cap should just come off. Then I can just pull the entire shaft out. So I'm gonna try that now. And there it is. So I grabbed this side of the shaft, I started pulling it out, and as I was pulling it out, the cap and everything came off. There was a little bit of hydraulic fluid in there, so think about that on how you want to catch it. Mine had very little because it's all drained out on the ground, which I don't normally like, but it is what it is. I can't help that it did that. So anyways, this whole piece came out, and then the outside of the cylinder, of course, is still on the bottom of the tractor. You can take that off. I don't want to. I'm just going to fix it on the tractor. Then I'm going to put all this back together. As you can see here, this divider seal, because this is a two-way cylinder, it goes back and forth each way. But this seal here in the middle is just disintegrated and horrible. And that right there is really what keeps this thing left and right, which is the reason my steering was so sloppy on the tractor, because the fluid was just sliding through. All of those seals are going to be replaced with this seal kit. So these are the seals that were in this seal kit that is specifically meant for the steering cylinder on this tractor. So these all should work with no problem. Then this paper that's back here is the printout from the service manual for this tractor of pulling the steering, the shaft and everything, and then replacing the seals. So I have went into this one here on this side, and there's 3 seals in there that you want to get out, and you also want to make sure you do not leave any pieces of seal in there, because you're going to have your wiper seal here on the outside, then you have your inner ring seals that are in there, and those could fall apart and get into the cylinder in here and you not even know it. So you make sure that you get everything out of the rings, and then make sure that nothing's falling inside of the main part of the housing in there that's behind, you know, this gland wall here. Because this is what the gland seal look like. And I gotta say, that's probably the worst I've ever seen one of these come out. And that's not me tearing it up with the pick. That's me having to pull piece by piece by piece out. That was kind of a mess. And that's one of the reasons I'm saying make sure you get everything out. This came out with no problem. These usually do hold up really well. This one is actually just this plastic. Normally these have like a piece of metal around them. This one did not. This is the wiper seal that's on the very outside. And you know, it's not in great condition, but it's not as bad as this one was. So I think this is the problem I had, where all that fluid's been coming out at. Anyways, you do want to get yourself a little pick set like this before you do it. This one's just a real cheap pick set. You don't need anything special, but this one has 4 different ends. Just want to mention that if you're going to be doing, you know, gasket seals like this, very, very helpful to get all this stuff out. Just using a flathead screwdriver just doesn't do good, and you're risking tearing up the inside of those cylinder walls. So get yourself a cheap pick set. Anyways, these are the 3 seals that I need to put on. I don't have a wonderful diagram for that to tell me exactly how they go, so I'm going to put them in the way I think they go, and I hope that works out. But this is the wiper. This goes on the outside at the very end, and these 2 go basically in the same ring on the inside in the gland, and they go against each other. So now to get these gland seals in like this, they are not fun to try to get in. So they make these little tools like this. This is something cheap. You can get these, I don't know about Harbor Freight, but I know you can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link to all of this stuff on Amazon. So when you're done watching the video, just look down in the description and I'll have links to just all the pieces that you'll need to put this in. These are definitely very helpful to have. All right, and we're done. That took literally less than probably 60 seconds. So this is the outer seal. First seal I put in was the gland seal. It's this inner seal here that I'm pointing the pick at. Then this little white ring goes in there, and they both sit inside of that groove. And they went in there actually very easy. The gland tool that I was showing you just a second ago did perfect on this gland and popped it right in. So that went in very nice. And then the white ring, of course, you just kind of open it up, stick part of it in, and then roll it in. It goes in real easy. And then this is the wiper seal that catches any dirt and anything, keeps it from going in, and also scrubs off any little bit of oil that may still be on there and keeps everything clean. So went in with no problem here. Now I'm going to go to the shaft and the other cap and get them ready. And here is the shaft all cleaned up. These are the 3 gaskets that I was able to pull off. Again, remember there was 4. This one pretty much disintegrated, that's here in the middle. This blue one here is the one that goes on top of this brown one that's right here in the middle that separates, you know, the fluid on both sides and lets you turn. So Now I'm going to get these put on. These were super easy to get off with the right pick. Maybe 60 seconds, all of these were on. The blue one, this is on top of the brown gasket that you saw earlier. This is probably the hardest one to get on, and I just had to take my time with one hand holding it and then slowly working it around the other side to get it on, kind of like putting the bead on a tire. Anyways, I did get this on. There's two things you do not want to do when you're changing seals on a cylinder. That is, one, scar the cylinder here anywhere, because then you'll just be eating up gaskets and seals. And you don't want to tear up any of your seals when you're putting them on, because just the slightest cut in any of these seals under 3,000 to 4,000 psi of pressure can easily make them tear, rip, and fall apart, quite a bit faster than normal. So don't tear them any up. Don't go crazy. If you need to put a little bit of hydraulic fluid or something on it, you probably have a lot of it hanging around. When you're working on this, just get it a little bit moist and then push this on. But this went on, like I said, it was the hardest one, but it still went on very easy. All of it's done. All right, and as you can see, I've got the cylinder down there. Look at it a little bit here. I did get it pushed all the way through. Now again, I'm going to repeat, make sure there is no busted gaskets or seals inside of there. So now onto the cap and gland. All right, and I've got now this cap, this gland all cleaned up, and kind of again the same thing. This one's not as bad as the other one was, but this gasket, this gland gasket, is just junk. Anyways, also make sure that you have this O-ring here. If it's not in this, like mine wasn't in this, look at the end of the hydraulic hose and make sure it's there, because before you put that hose back on here, you have to have that O-ring in there, or you're going to be leaking out hydraulic fluid there. Now I'm going to put all the seals in here, and then we're going to get this thing put back together. So I wanted to show you how to do this gland tool, because this is pretty important to be able to get these in there well. You slide this gland, and again, try not to tear the gland up. These have a little bit of sharp edges, so I try to roll it in there without tearing up anything. Slide it in there like this. So that way, when you twist these arms here the other direction, now you have this gland kind of shrunk up. And you're going to want to adjust it some to get this thing just nice and ready to slide in like that. You want it to look like this. Then you go to where you need to put it. Like this needs to go inside of here. And as you can see, it makes it small enough now where it shrunk down in there, and you can just slide it into that groove. And then normally you can just open it up, but luckily it's still shrunk down. I'm going to push it into the groove and then let it pop in. And as you see now that it popped in, we can seat it in there. I'm really hoping this is the right direction on the gland seal. It was kind of hard to tell because it was so torn up, but this is what it looked like when I took these out. And then you put the white seal in here. But I didn't have any good instructions. If this is the wrong way, well, I'm just going to leave it that way. But if this is the wrong way, let me know down in the comments. There is a groove on this, and it is directional, but I believe this is the direction that it looked like it was from the old seals that were in there. I don't have any schematics that are close enough to tell me this. So let me know down in the comments if you know this is the right way. I don't claim to be an expert. I've probably done 15 of these things over my lifespan, but that doesn't make me an expert on it. But it is holding really well on the other one, so I think that's the right direction. But I just wanted to get a good close-up on that so you could see, using this gland tool, how to get that in there, because this is probably the hardest seal to get in there. Then I went and got the other gasket. So this one here is the white one that goes in there. And when I was saying I just kind of pushed it, it is cut, right? So push part of it in here first, and then just kind of walk it around until it slides in there. And it will. You just have to kind of push it in. There it goes. And then once it's in there, I like to come around it and just kind of move it. Make sure they're seating well. Use a fingernail if you have any. I don't have that much fingernail, but a little bit. And it's now in there. Then the wiper seal here goes into the groove. I just hold that with one finger as I walk it around, and then it slides down into that groove. I just really check them to try to make sure they're seated. You want them to be seated well in there. And then this one, being a cap, has this gasket that goes around it, seal, whatever you want to call it, and that goes on pretty easy. So the other side had these 3 seals, but it wasn't a cap like this one, so it didn't have this. But it had these 3 seals on the other side, and so it's an exact copy of this, and then this has this, and then I've already got the shaft done. So now I get to put this back in the right direction, which is like that. I'm going to hook the hydraulic hose, put the 4 bolts back in. Then I'm going to get the tie rods all hooked up again. I'm going to re-measure the tire. So I'm going to measure and make sure the toe, I want to get it as close to 0 as possible, because this basically just stays in the dirt with me. So to do that, you measure one side of the rim all the way across and make sure it's exactly the same as the front of the rim all the way across. Then tighten it down, and you're really back to ready to go. All right, so I've got everything put back together. I even packed those ball joints down there. The boot that was on it was just destroyed anyway, so I just pulled them off. And I packed them with grease. They're good enough. This is a point where if you're doing this, you might want to replace those, but those ball joints are still nice and tight, still have the bushing and everything in them, so I'm just going to pack them with grease, and most likely dirt will build up around them anyway. This is just a farm tractor. So that one's on. And this one's on. I packed it. I'm going to pack it a little bit heavier with grease, but everything's on and ready to go. So now I got to get this thing cranked up and get all the air out of that and make sure that it's turning good. So I drove it around a little bit and it's working great. You're gonna have to, turn the steering wheel back and forth each side extreme to get all that air out of the cylinder. But now that I've driven it around a little bit, I mean, it's steering perfect. No more sloppiness. The steering wheel stops when the tires are turned all the way sharp and it doesn't move. So before, I could keep turning the steering wheel slowly, but I could still keep doing it because that fluid was just draining from one side to the other. Now it is very tight, no leaks at all. I've checked all around it. That's why I've got it sitting up like this. I've checked for any kind of leaks. It's not leaking anywhere. So yeah, I think we're good. Now I've got one hydraulic hose I've got to fix on the other side to keep it from leaking. And then I'm going to go and buy me a lot more hydraulic oil and fill this thing all the way up. Like I said, last time I parked it, it had that leak over there. And now you can't even see the oil registering at all. So it's definitely lost quite a bit of oil. So I hope that helped make you feel a little more comfortable about doing that yourself. Pretty easy job as long as you have everything you need to start with. Again, I'll put all the links to the tools and everything I use down in the description of the video. So if you thought this was helpful, if you would like the video, that's the thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. As I tinker around with my tractors and the farm and things like that, I try to make videos that I think will be helpful to someone else. Thank y'all for watching. Take care.